People sometimes ask me, Dr. Yin, how do you know so much? Well, I tell them it's because I have so many smart friends. And today, one of my smart friends, Dr. Susan Brown, is going to tell us how to examine a bearded dragon. Dr. Brown owned the first exotic animal hospital in the U.S., so she knows all kinds of things about many different types of exotic animals.
Hi, we're here today. I'm Dr. Brown. This is Jenna. We're going to do a quick exam of this handsome young man here, this little bearded dragon. But first I'm going to have Jenna tell us a little bit about him because you see he's a little bit unusual looking. So Jenna, you want to tell us a little bit about this guy?
Sure, yeah. This is Floyd. He's about 3 years old. He was born in a breeding facility that I actually used to work at, and his parents had metabolic bone disease, or at least his mother did. And it comes from improper lighting because reptiles don't make vitamin D on their own. They need an outside source to produce the vitamin D for bones. So either his mother or somewhere down his line did not have the right building blocks to create his bones correctly. So he was actually born with metabolic bone disease. And you can see here, it's kind of like scoliosis, what looks like scoliosis. Right at the top of his back here is kind of a bulge up, which actually is an S shape in his spine. And right at the base of his tail, he has another one that's almost just like a kink, and it goes to the left. Now, when he was born, it was actually worse. This was rather 90 degrees, and his tail was curly, and this was a little more S-y. But for the most part, he's kind of dealt with it throughout his life, and he's been able to still move around and grow healthy, and he's still growing.
Well, he's going to be a guy that's going to eat mostly things like insects and all. I don't know, what are you feeding him at this point?
Majority of his diet is insects like little cockroaches or crickets, and then every day he gets fresh greens, and he can eat most vegetables. He likes to eat vegetables. I mix it up with different colors and carrots and radishes and different things, along with romaine lettuce. Any lettuce really besides leaf lettuce, and then every once in a while he gets a pinky mouse, like maybe once a month.
So they're omnivores. In the wild, they would probably eat a little bit more on the meat end of it, but they are omnivores. It is a mistake to feed them nothing but meat, and it's a mistake to feed them nothing but vegetables. That doesn't work well. There's no commercial foods available like pellets or anything that are really suitable for them. And we were talking about the vitamin D issue. My recommendation for most reptiles that are sun-loving reptiles, which he is, he's not a nocturnal reptile that would only come out at night. If at all possible, it's a great idea to get these guys into natural light. We can use all the lights we want that are the, ultraviolet and the vitamin, all that kind of stuff, UVA and UVB. Now, there are all the discussions about it, but there's nothing like real sunlight. So you've done a great job with him, but if there's any way that you can have him be outside even once a week, in a little cage where he's got part shade, part sun, where he can just get some of that natural sunlight. It has, properties to it that the various spectrums of light that we can't get in our bulbs, and that would just be an additional benefit to him. We recommend that for all. In fact, very quickly, I'll say a lot of iguanas that we saw in our practice would be very sluggish. He's in great shape, but they'd come in, maybe they didn't have soft bones, but they're just sort of, oh, it's such a great pet, he's so sweet, he's so wonderful. They'd put him out in the sunlight, and suddenly they came alive. They were just like, oh my gosh, I'm active, I'm alert, I'm bright, and then people are like, wow, he's not my cute little soft pet that's just lying there anymore. But this guy is way more active than the kind of iguanas I'm talking about. So you've done a good job, and I think having some time outside, he might even be a little bit more active. All right, so nice job, Jenna. So here's this little bearded dragon guy, and I'm sorry, you told us he's how old now?
He's 3.
3 years old, okay. A bearded dragon that would not have this sort of an issue with his spine here would normally be wider. They're sort of compressed from top to bottom and sort of have a wide body. They live in sort of deserty areas. Their color makes them blend in really well. They can slip under rocks, and it works out really well for them. So we're just going to go ahead and just talk a little bit about how to do a quick exam on a reptile. He's being particularly wonderful today. He said, I'm going to sit really quietly and listen. I like being on camera. I look really good. So all these little frills and things on his skin here, these are all normal. The skin should be bumpy, should have all these nice little projections on there. When we're looking at an animal that we may not be really familiar with and say, wow, what are these strange things? One of the things we want to do is see, is it symmetrical? Is it exactly the same on both sides, like you can see on his head, those frills sticking out? That's probably normal, okay? If you have one side that looks really different than the other, well, that might be something we might want to investigate. So on his head, which is where I'm starting right now, this all looks pretty symmetrical. His eyes are open here. We're going to turn a light on. I don't know if you're going to be able to see his eyes. He has a little pupillary reflex there, meaning that the pupils will constrict when the light's in them. The eyes are nice and clear and clean, no discharge at all. We're going to take a look on this side. All right, so the eyes look really, really good. Sometimes these guys can develop eye infections, eye abscesses, and respiratory infections that can cause eye discharge. Okay, big boy. All right, so now he's a little anxious, so we're just going to wait until he can calm a little. Okay. Now, I'm going to go ahead and look at his nose. His nose is not super easy to see. I'm going to have you just, stabilize his back in there, okay? His nose is not super easy to see. I don't know if we light it up. He's got little nostrils. If you can see, there's a little, you want to point to it? Do you know where it is? Right. I'm going to put the light on it. This little yellowish thing right there. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. It's a little yellow dot. Okay, he's got 2 nostrils here, and those are nice and clear. Sometimes those can get blocked up with material. The ears, we'll put the light on again, are right here. You can see a little depression right there, and he's got another one. This one looks even, I don't know if you can see even better. It's got a little, it almost looks like a little window over it. So those are the ears. Those look nice and clean. Now we're going to look in his mouth. This is the thing he's probably going to like the least. So we're just going to go ahead and get that over with. Okay. They have a nice fat little tongue, and the inside of the mouth, I think it's actually lit pretty good. Okay. He's got, everything is nice and clean and pink and no lumps or bumps. Everything looks really good. Now his teeth, you can close it now. He goes, I like having my mouth open. He'll probably leave it open. He has very tiny little teeth. They're almost like a serrated knife all the way around the edge. They're too tiny for you to see this far away. Okay, so we did the most horrible stuff first. He says, yeah, get me out of here, guys. So let's go ahead then and look at the rest of him. I'm going to stay up here at the front of his body for a minute. I'm going to look at those feet. It's really common for reptiles to have toenails that have been that are turned or twisted or have been pulled out because of the substrate that they may be on. They get it caught, or they're running around the house and they get their nails. So it's very common. It's also very, very common for reptiles to have broken toes and have them going in all different directions, again, because they get them caught on things. So it's important, the material that you have your reptile on and the substrate, that they don't get it caught. He has beautiful feet. You've done a nice job. What kind of bedding do you put him on?
He's on crushed walnut shells. It looks like sand.
Very good. So he's not going to. So I'm just going to take a look at these legs. What I'm going to do is also feel the legs. He's got a lot of nice muscle on those legs. The joints are working really, really well. Now I'm going to turn him around, and you're going to work on his front end here and just sort of gently restrain his front end. And we're going to take a look at his back legs. The back legs are the ones, if you can see how long those back toes are. This is common in iguanas and a lot of the reptiles to have long back toes. These, again, are often toes that can be broken or twisted, or the nails missing, and he's in great shape that way. And he's got nice muscle right here. The other thing, because this guy had bone disease, which makes his bones like rubber, makes them not grow properly, one of the things I'm going to check is how good his bones are in his legs. With animals with bone disease, it's literally like rubber. We can just move those bones around, and his are in great shape. Nice job. Now, we noticed, as was pointed out earlier, we've got this curve in the tail. We know that's not normal, but we have a history that tells us why that's the case. A lot of lizards, though, can also have an issue where if you grab the lizard by the tail or it gets caught, the tail can break off. And you also can have deformities or changes in the tail because then they grow a new tail and it looks odd. But in his case, we know he has this curve here because of his disease with metabolic bone disease. But he's got a little, did he always have the little curl on the tip here?
One of his cage mates in the facility still had bitten off the end of his tail.
Bit off the tiny end of his tail. So there, he's got a special little tail there. All right, so one of the things, checking an animal's weight to make sure they're healthy. I told you we check that these thighs are nice, and also we want to check that, make sure there's plenty of fat in the tail, or fat and muscle in the tail. If you'll notice on him, if I can pick him up gently here, we'll see if we can look at the underside of the tail. You can see how nice and fat that tail is, okay? An animal that's sick and thin and wasting, you'll actually start seeing all the bones of the tail, and instead of nice and round, it'll just be sunken in on both sides, and it'll look like just a long sort of bony structure with skin stretched over it, okay? So he's in excellent body condition. He's not too fat. If he was getting too fat, this would start to bulge really big, and so would his back legs. Now see him taking a breath there? He's going to take a big breath, yeah. They don't breathe as quickly as birds do. They can take breaths at irregular intervals. All right, they have a very long rib cage. So his rib cage starts here, and his ribs actually go all the way back to here, okay? And you can almost see, it's a little bit hard, but you can almost see the individual ribs. I mean, I can feel them here going along the side. So they're well protected. Their internal organs are well protected with those ribs. We know why this is happening because of his metabolic bone disease. Normally this would be straight. I'm going to feel a little bit along his spine here. He's got plenty of muscle there, looking good. I'm going to have you stabilize his front end just gently, and we're going to take a little quick feel inside his abdomen. Now, because he's flatter than he is, he's going this way, we can't take his abdomen and squeeze it together all the way like you might in a dog or a cat. You just sort of have to feel around with your fingers. I'm using my fingers very close together like this and just sort of feeling around this way. So feeling for lumps or bumps, and then we can press up this way. You should be able to feel any masses or lumps, stuff in his stomach, stuff in his intestines if he's got a bunch of food in there. Mostly in these guys, they feel just sort of really soft, which he does. All right, now let's take a quick peek on his underside. We sort of looked at it once real quickly. We're not going to put him all the way on his back. So his underside is a different color, yeah? And he got into some radishes here, so he's a little bit pink. It's very attractive. We like it. And these right here are little scent glands right here. And if you look at them, actually, I'm not going to squeeze them, but if you squeeze them, the material that comes out is like a crayon. It's really thick and waxy. And as they drag themselves over the rocks, this is also in iguanas and a lot of other lizards along the legs, that leaves a scent that we can't smell, but other lizards can, okay? So those are very prominent right now, and Jetta tells me that that means that he may be in breeding condition at this point. All right, so everything underneath looks really good. No lumps, no bumps, no masses of any kind. Last thing we're going to do then is take a listen to him. So I'm just going to have you gently put your hands and make sure he doesn't want to run off. He's been super friendly. But just like the other animals that we want to examine, less restraint is better. If they're getting wiggly, let up, let them settle, let them relax, and then try again. It's better to do a lot of short little pieces of your exam than try to just, muscle down and try to get everything done all at once, okay? So I'm just gonna have you make sure he doesn't go forward on us here. I'm gonna take a listen. Their heart rates are very slow. And then when they take a breath, it goes right over the heart, and it's hard to, he's taking a lot of breaths. There we go. 3, 4, 5. That's how slow the heart is. But his lungs sound good when he was taking those breaths. Okay, so the heart rate is very slow and it's quite normal. His color is good. I mentioned when we looked inside his mouth, it's nice and pink. So, you know, other than what we already know about the deformities he had as a little guy, he's really in great condition, and I think you've done a great job with him. I would say on an exam table, if you're going slowly and you're going calmly, they will tend to have these quiet periods and let you do stuff. And then they get anxious and they start, like he was doing actually. He's actually pretty close to being a normal activity. Because if you notice, periodically he'd be like, okay, I'm done, and I want to move, I want to go. If this was a big old iguana, they might be flashing their, swishing their tail back and forth, which you would need to be careful with because they can cause damage with their tail. These guys can't really. So I would say he's seriously pretty close to normal activity. They'll stay quiet, you can do things, and then they'll want to move, and then they'll get quiet, and then they'll want to move. They don't tend to just constantly move unless you are doing things to them like squeezing them or harming them in ways that they just need to get away, and that's it. You can, if you need to, sometimes, gently put a hand over their eyes. You don't need to wrap them up tight or in a towel or anything, and that can help sometimes if you need to do a quick thing on the back. I don't like to keep their eyes covered all the time because I know that I think animals do better if they know what's going on, if they can see what's going on. If your movements are slow and calm and you're staying calm and you're doing things gently and quietly to them, they handle that pretty well. But on occasion, if you need to, you could quickly cover his eyes to keep him from moving forward. Okay? I think he's amazing for the disabilities that he has. He's really excellent body condition, and he's very active.